It's Wednesday, December 14th, 2022, your day with the podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com or on their Facebook page. Also being brought to you by WYDOT. We've got tons of road closures and advisories, so call 511 or go to wyoroad.info. Remember, when there's ice and snow, take it slow. We're still going to be very windy and very cold. Snow will be winding down, although continuing in the far eastern and northeastern areas of the state for a good portion of the day today. The problem is going to be the blowing snow. Blowing and drifting snow and extremely cold wind chills will continue to be a concern, mainly in the far eastern counties with South Dakota, Nebraska, Colorado border areas. That's where it's going to be the most windy. Winds not nearly as much of a factor in the west and continued very cold statewide. Those eastern and northeastern areas of the state and in the mountains will see snow linger on, but tapering off in terms of intensity and flurries by later today. But the wind is going to be just hanging with us in those eastern areas, and with the snow on the ground, blowing and drifting snow, this will keep travel very difficult. We'll see the winds easing some, but do expect temperatures to remain very cold through the weekend. We don't see much weather Friday through Sunday, but it will be just cold, very December-like. Now, we're still looking at a possible cold outbreak mid to late next week. We have a lot of variance in the long-range modeling, but we have a lot of cold air to deal with in the northern hemisphere, and it's going to be kind of playing cat and mouse with the United States and portions of Canada over the next couple of weeks. But there's a lot of cold air in the system, so we're going to still be looking out, especially mid to late next week, for another big push of very cold Arctic conditions. The satellite photo this morning shows that very well organized storm now up into northeastern areas of Nebraska. You can see the swirl with the center of the low right here, and you can see the geographic extent of this storm from the Texas Gulf Coast, wrapping its way all the way back into the Rockies and into the Plain States. So a very impressive storm now just kind of meander into the upper Plain States in the Midwest, causing a lot of winter weather up into these areas here over the next couple of days. Road closure maps across the west look a lot like this. Morning map across Wyoming show lots of reds and yellow and oranges with lots of closures along Interstate 80, Interstate 25, and adjacent roads and highways. So check road conditions before heading on out. And there you can see the upper level low in northeastern Nebraska here this morning. The northwest flow will continue to come in behind it, pumping in that cold air. By Friday morning, the storm is only over Wisconsin. So this is why it's going to just be persistently cold with still very brisk winds right on through the end of the week with that northwest flow. So there's nothing coming to give us a chinook or to bring us warm temperatures. We're going to have some really chilly days, some really cold nights. This is what's left of the storm in terms of what it's going to produce between now through early Saturday. The focus of the heavier precipitation now in the eastern Dakotas, up into Minnesota. Still some moisture wrapping back here into eastern Montana and eastern Wyoming and into the mountain areas with continued snow shower activity in that northwest flow. But the focus point now of the heavier precipitation into the north central areas of the United States. And then you can see this additional snow that'll be falling through the course of the day Saturday. Winds, these are the winds that are going to just continue to be persistent with the slow moving low. That strong northwest flow just will continue to get pumped into the region. And that's going to keep the wind chills very cold. These are the wind chill values by tomorrow morning. So you can see there's really just no relief from the wind and the cold. As we get into the weekend, there will be slight moderation in temperatures, but not by much. We get more into a westerly flow. But all this blue up here represents some really cold air, very cold air up into Canada. That'll be leaking south and east into the northern plain states. So this is going to be a breezy, chilly weather pattern. Not severe cold, but plenty chilly and still plenty windy in some areas. The blocking highs remain over the Gulf of Alaska and up over that Greenland area. So the cold air is just bottled up here over the continent. And this is what we're looking at potentially pushing south and east by the middle to the end of next week. This wedge of very, very cold Arctic air is something that we're going to have to contend with. There's a lot of solutions. We may see the Arctic air get directed more this way mid to late next week it could end up going all the way down into Texas and into areas west of the divide as well, or it could stay up here along the U.S.-Canadian border. There's three kind of scenarios. The scenario we're going with is probably something that looks similar to this, but I would not be surprised if we see that purple area get extended by mid to late next week all the way to the Gulf Coast. So there's a lot of moving parts up here, but needless to say, we mentioned yesterday there were minus 80-degree temperatures reported in Siberia, and we're going to have a potential record cold in portions of Canada, maybe up into Alaska here with this cold wave. So that is something that we've got to watch very carefully heading into next week and also into Christmas week as well. Lots of winter on the table. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay warm, and if you have to travel, check with road conditions. Make sure your roads are open before you head on out.